Hello and thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to take a break from working on the front porch here on the workshop, and we're going to tackle that Van Dorn drill that I got at the flea market a few weeks ago. So let's take a look at it. Right, Mugs? So what I know about this is that it was built between 1931 and 1951. And that is about all I know about it. It's got kind of a wonky trigger, and it needs a new cord. That's obviously split, but it looks pretty straightforward. 4 screws take off the handle and you can rewire it. It needs a strain relief in here. 4 bolts apparently take off the front, so we can grease it, and that should be it. Right, Mugs? All right, so let's get busy. Okay, we're not going to fire this thing up before we replace this power cord, simply because looks like it's been cut. That goes through the insulation and into the wires, so couldn't test it that way anyway. Whoa, let me get a bigger screwdriver. I can't exactly get good leverage that way. And these appear to not be inclined to move. Nope. Mugsy's had enough. He knows when I stop paying attention to him. All right. All right, so it looks like there's 2 screws. There is a bit of a somewhat, I guess, it holds the cord. It doesn't act as a strain relief, and it looks like just these 2 screws, and push this button in the switch lock, if that even works. It does. Should get the switch out, and that means all the wiring should come with it, I hope. And if so, that means this is an easier to maintain design than many of these old heavy drills, because usually getting the switch out of the handle like this is quite a bit of work. I'm trying to think, I did one where the switch actually had been replaced at some point, and so it was no longer the original switch. I want to make sure not to drop any of these screws in there. And so because of that, I actually had to modify the handle itself. I'm putting this back with that so that I don't forget where these go. But I had to modify the handle by grinding it open to get the switch in, because it wasn't the original switch. It worked, but it had been replaced. Okay, so here's your switch, and we're going to clean this a little bit. The spring looks okay. I'm not sure why it was sticking, but it was. But yeah, so your wiring it's just 2 wires right there. So we got to inspect the wiring going into the motor, but that's it. 2 wires, and we're wired. There is no way to really easily ground this with a 3-prong cable, so I'm gonna have to use a 2-prong. All right, so let me get to that and I'll be back. So here's my replacement power cord. It is 2-prong. Now, interestingly, I noted that this, at some point in its life, has been rewired. Kind of interesting to see that. So black goes here, and the black wire does not have, no, the white wire doesn't either. But it looks like this is not the original power cord. Someone has replaced it. All right, so black goes on the bottom here. So far, all we've needed is 2 flathead screwdrivers. And white goes at the top here. And that removes our power cord. Now, the replacement power cord and the way this is set up, there doesn't really appear to be the opportunity to put a strain relief on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of make one out of shrink tubing. This shrink tubing works. It doesn't need to be as long. And we could even double it up, but I just don't know that we'll have the room. This is not a lot of space. But so we're gonna put a piece of shrink tubing, just added extra insulation on top of this. Let's pull that down. See if I've got a couple of terminal rings that are small enough for this, because I'd rather put terminal rings on it than just wrap the wire, which is what they had. So let's take the screw off. So it looks like blue. Yeah, blue. Okay. Hopefully I'll still have room in the handle. All right, so blue terminal ring means blue on your crimp tool. If you crimp it, test it, make sure it's tight, okay? And we should be, yeah, we should be able to go blue and white, yep. And we'll do a blue also on the white. Blue, blue, and we're good, okay? So black goes on the bottom. Let me check something here, because I'm not going to have a lot of room. Okay. All right. So let's look at we're going to inspect the other wires and insulation all the way up into the motor. And here's something interesting. I can't see the brushes in this thing. So we may have to take the whole thing apart to check those if this thing does not run right. But hopefully it will. All right, so let's see if we can fit this all back in here now. I'm gonna bend this board up. Tight. Switch goes down like that. Trigger gets pushed in so it can slide in there. Trigger lock should go in as well while I'm pushing the trigger. Trigger lock. Push this guy all the way in. Oh, this is really easy, this guy. So far. Problem with this white wire. We're nearly there, and it's getting held up because of that white wire. So let's pull it back out. Okay, so what we want to do with this white wire is bend it up. That's it. We are in. Okay. Trigger's gonna work now. Okay, so while I've got this apart, I'm gonna spray some contact cleaner in there. I should have done it while it was apart. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna clean that out, just in case there's something wrong with it. All right. Switch is clean, so we're gonna take the shrink tube and push it down there so that this holder will grab it. I don't know if I actually need to even shrink this stuff. I'll debate that. Trying to hold it down while I put these screws in. It's a little trickier than I thought. I gotta put this screw back so I don't lose the place of the washer. All right, ready to pop this guy back, and then we should be able to test it. I don't like this big wide gap here, but that is the way it was. It looks odd. All right, I'm gonna clean up these 4 bolts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pivot over here. To the bench grinder. All right, when you're using a bench grinder, wire brush, gloves, and goggles. These things can throw shreds at you. Now, you'll note I've been doing some painting. All right, let's put this guy back together. Let's watch this wiring so we don't compress it in any ways that it was not compressed before. when tightening these, tighten them up just till they're snug. As soon as the screw hits some resistance, stop and get all four at that point, and then tighten them a little bit more and then a little bit more. This is a casting. You don't want to overstress any of this metal and potentially warp it or anything like that. Or crack it, depending on what type of metal this is. You could actually even crack it. But with 4 screws, this only has to be so tight to begin with. Okay, all 4 screws are snug, so we're gonna go tighter, 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 and now all the way. Okay, all right, we are all wired. So what we can do now, I don't want to run it for long, but we can do a quick test to make sure it works. So I've got a box here. If you watch my channel, you recall I got that possibly even from the same flea market as this. I'm not sure. So what we do is we plug this box in, switch is off. We're going to plug the power cord in. Let me give myself a little bit of extra cord here. Okay, so we're going to plug the drill in. Okay, so it's plugged in. Now, we're going to make sure, I always do this to make sure, let me make sure we're filming here so you'll see it run for the first time, and who knows how long. I mean, it's at least 74 years old. All right, so the first thing I do is I'll turn the power on and I'll look to see if anything sparks. Nothing sparked. Second thing, one hand, I'll hit the trigger. Now, these drills are high torque, so if it moves, don't be surprised because these are slow moving but high torque. I'll say one thing, it's extremely slow moving, but it is very loud. All right, so it works. All right, next up, I'm gonna take these 4 screws off and we are going to look at the gearbox and grease it, and we're gonna clean the motor out as if these screws come out. Oh boy, oh boy. Are you all gonna give me that much trouble? Okay, that's one. Jeez. Okay, that's 2. Clearly these haven't been taken off in a long time, so that makes me wonder, has this ever actually been greased? Don't know. Whew. Interesting. They're not rusted on. Somebody just over tightened these guys, I guess. Did we get it or did it strip? Can't tell. It stripped. So the top 2 are loose, bottom 2 are not. I'm gonna pause the camera here. I'll be back. I'm gonna wrestle with this for a bit at a better angle. So a friend who views this channel recommended. So someone who views this channel recommended that I give this stuff a shot. I love the can. The orange and black is just very, very retro. Maybe it'll help. Whoa. Oh, it's got a unique smell to it. It really shoots out of there. Yeah, that is unique, and it got all over me. Wow, there's a unique smell to it. Man, I gotta figure out how to get this can not to shoot so hard. Jesus. All right, let's let that sit for a bit. And hopefully those screws come out, because I don't want to strip them. I've never had trouble with these types of screws before. Never had them stuck. These look like they've been over torqued, but I don't want to do any damage. Let's let that sit. I'll be back. Okay, I've got it in a vise. Penetrating oil has been on it for a while. I tapped it all around the screws with a hammer. So here's hoping that it lets go. This way I can use two hands on the screwdriver. Okay, that guy's out. We'll be able to see how well the penetrating oil did in that half hour or so. This guy's out. I guess I just needed to think a little harder on it. But that's certainly a relief, because these are big. And that would have been quite a task, getting these out, if one of them had totally stripped. All right, back to the workbench. Let's see. That penetrating oil really went all over the place. I've never seen a can that shot out with that much pressure. Huh, see the oil at the bottom? So the penetrating oil did make it through the top two that were loosened already, but the question is, did it make it through all the way to the bottom? And let's see. Looks like it made it all the way to the base. Good stuff. I'm sure that helped. So a combination of penetrating oil, tapping around it with a small hammer, very lightly, and eventually just giving up and putting it in a vise to grab it, was our recipe for success, getting these guys out. I will not be tightening them quite as much when I put them back. Yep, there's oil all the way down the base of that. All right, the two tops are actually longer. Okay, so we're gonna separate this. Now, I wanna make sure I don't pull the whole motor apart when I do this. So what I am going to do, or try to do, is to hold the spindle just a little bit while I slide this guy out. Okay. Well, I can quite plainly see the gears here. I don't see any grease in there. Let hold this near the camera, you can hear this. This thing could use some grease, listen. Not ideal. Maybe that could be why this was so loud. So, I don't see a real obvious way this comes apart. So I may just shoot grease down in there. But first, I think we'll clean this up. So let me get some parts cleaner. I'll be right back. Okay, pretty cleaned up. So what I am going to do, since there does not appear to be an easy way, this may just pry off this part. I'm not sure. I don't see any point that they've given to actually do that. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply inject grease in there. So I'm using this super lube. Not quite sure how much is in this tube. Oh, here we go. See if we can get some more out of here. Ah, it's getting there. It's quieting down now. May take it a few minutes of running. These guys are different. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on those. So, all right. We're greased. That's the end of this tube as far as I can tell. Nope, there's a tiny bit more in there, so I might as well use it. Okay. All right, let's look at the inside of the motor here. All right, so for the switch, I use WD-40 contact cleaner, not WD-40. Do not use WD-40 and stuff like that. And while I'm at it, I will say, do not use WD-40 in your motors. At least not regular WD-40. Look at how filthy the inside of this motor is. That being said, what you can use is this. This is called dry lube. And what this is it's not WD-40, but it's made by them. This is for lubricating motors. So it can also work to pull grime out of the motor itself as well. As you will soon see when I actually spray this in the motor. What comes out is going to be pretty dirty, I would assume. See how brown that is? Look at that. So, first I'm spraying it in the vents here. See how clean it's making it? So it's not only going to look at the gunk. Look at that. Hopefully you can see that it is coming out black. So it will not only clean that grime out, but it'll put a somewhat safe to run a little bit of lubricant on the motor. Okay, so we've cleaned the motor. I don't know where the brushes are. I don't feel like pulling this apart to look for them. I don't plan on actually using this drill for a lot, nor do I think anyone else will. Look, you gotta see this. Look at the grime that came out of that motor. All right, so let me get rid of this. Okay. So it's going to take that a few minutes to fully dry. But while that is drying, let's put our motor back together. Oh geez, that was easy. Sometimes you got to wrestle with these. I guess not always. How did I say the top screws were longer? I think so. Or not. I really don't recall. I'm going to clean these first with the wire brush. I'll be back. Hey everyone, just a brief interruption here. If you're enjoying this content and you'd like to support my channel, and especially if you like cats, I've written a series of chapter books for ages 8 and up, fully illustrated, called Flea Biscuit and Friends. The first book in the series is Flea Biscuit Finds a Home, followed by Flea Biscuit Summer Vacation, and finally, Flea Biscuit's Magic Christmas. They're available at all local booksellers as well as on Amazon.com. I will post a link in the video description. And hey, that's my pitch. Back to the video. Because these screws gave me some trouble, I'm actually going to put a drop of oil on each one before they go in. Okay, you don't need to see me put these screws in. I'll be back. Okay, screws are in. Tightened up. I decided not to take this back off to find the brushes because of the fact that this is going to see very limited use, if any. And I just don't think it's necessary. In the case of this, it seems to sound fine. There's no sparking inside or anything like that. Well, I got that penetrating oil all over everything. Okay. It is now fully dried off, so we can test it. I also have a new pair of gloves, so I'm not getting little flakes of white paint on everything. So let's do our safety test. We plug it in, apply power, and let's see what it does. It's a little quieter and not quite as loud. You could hear it speed up just a little bit as the grease gets worked in. So what I'm gonna do next, I gotta debate what I'm gonna do to polish this thing or paint it. It'd be very easy for me to simply tape up this badge, plug these holes, clean it, and then paint it. But I don't know. It looks like it was originally silver. But let's clean up the chuck first. And I'll show you how I do that. If you haven't seen one of my videos, I do it the same way every time, but let's clean up the chuck. Okay, well the camera wasn't on. So what I've been doing is oiling the chuck up. I found a key that's not a great fit, but it does allow me to turn it a little bit. So since the camera was off, I actually did get it to move. It's not easy, and this key isn't great, but it works. I was worried I was going to have to take the chuck off, but no, it's working. All right, it's the next day. I kind of put some thought into it, and I came up with no decision on if I want to repaint this thing or polish it. Mugsy's in the way. I got Mr. T and Checkers over there. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it up, because there is a lot of grime on there. I do have silver paint. The only real challenge with painting this, there's no difficulty, just mask that, mask the cord. The challenge is cleaning it. There's going to be a lot of oil, and I put more oil on it while I was getting it ready. So I got a little Scotch-Brite here. I'm going to see if this will help, and acetone, which should neutralize the oil. But see that, I gotta clean all that black up. And interestingly, the acetone will probably take a lot of this old paint off as well, and I'll be able to see if I really want to paint it or just polish it up. It looks like this paint's gonna come off real easy. So I could polish it. Always easier to just paint it. Okay, interesting thing just happened. So I'm cleaning this, and I didn't rub this, but some acetone ran across the badge, and the red just came right off, and it's yellow underneath. I don't know what's up with that. If that was, I don't know. Somebody had put yellow primer underneath the red badge. I mean, I feel bad that I kind of screwed that up, but I didn't rub it. It just literally got a little bit of it on there, and that was it. It just came right off like it was nothing. I mean, it doesn't look any worse. It's actually easier to read now. But very odd, very, very odd. But I'll just mask that off. I think the badge should have been red, but there's not really much I can do about that now. I think we've got it mostly clean. So there should be no oil on it. So weird. I don't know. I was thinking for a second the badge was brass, but it is clearly outlined here. You can see everything. So what I'm going to do is end up waxing it with car wax, which is what I use on those badges. So I've just got to plug all of the vent holes, mask it off, and then I can paint it. All right, so strange. Let me give you a close-up of that badge. What happened? I don't know. Never had that happen before, but look, it actually looks better than it did. Let me take this glove off, I can zoom in. But you can read it more clearly now. Got me. But anyway, let me finish this up and then we'll get to painting. So, Muggsy and I looked up pictures on the internet of these Van Dorn drills, and I can't find a single one that's actually painted silver. So, it doesn't look like they were silver. It looks like maybe that was either done later, or maybe later in the production runs they didn't polish them, they painted them. But it's tough to tell, and so I've decided to polish it. Right, Muggs? So it's already starting to look good. So I'm using a wire brush to kind of heavily get the finish, and then I'm going to use the polisher on it. Okay. All the heavy oxidation is taken off, so we're going to go on over to the polisher. I've got goggles on, of course, and gloves. All right, let's do this side. Let's see how it comes out. We got all this, you can see the scratches here, and that pretty much takes all the scratches out. And it's got polish on it, so it's foggy a little bit now. All right, done using the polisher. And I mean, it looks dark because it's got polish on it still. But as I always say, never underestimate the power of a hand polishing. So I'm going to use chemical guys, light metal polish, and a rag, and we're going to see. As I always say with these things, you can take them as far as you want to go. You want that mirror finish, just keep polishing. It'll come. I don't take them that far. I think it's kind of a lot of time that I could spend doing other things. So look at that, all that black came off. Probably need 2 coats. These gloves are dirty. So everywhere I touch, I'm putting black on this right now. So let's ditch the gloves. Take this tape off. All right. So here we go. Some polish in here. Got to dig out. So let's get close up. Looks good. It's unfortunate about that label turning yellow like that. It's the strangest thing. The red paint just ran right off of it, and that was under it. But I could repaint it red and try to use fine steel wool to bring this out, but it's quite readable. 32375B. It does say Maryland, so this is between 1931 and 1951 when it was made. You can read the serial number, but yeah, overall it looks quite good. The final step in this is the adding a chuck that actually fits it. I've got a model here, this guy, that's the size. This is a Ryobi with 3 sizes on it, but that's the one I need. And the pipe, because these are good for breaking your wrist or at least fracturing it. So I don't just put a pipe on there, because that would be too easy. What I like to do is I put a cap on the pipe, for starters, and I put shrink tubing on the pipe. And the shrink tubing is essentially to give it a little bit of a grip. So let's see, about there to here. And it looks better. This shrink tubing is tight. It's been sitting for a while. Let's see if I can get it all the way down. There we go. Okay, went a little bit too far. Okay, I'm gonna get this out of the way because I don't want to shrink all of this. All right, and then we'll just shrink it. with that, we're done. Unless I decide to paint that logo, but I think I'm gonna just call this one done because it looks kind of neat with that antique yellow, even though it's not correct. All right, so here it is. Looks great, runs great, other than me turning this badge from red to yellow, even though now it's easier to read. It came out really, really nice. I did find a matching chuck key holder, and I'm telling you, I've got about 50 different sizes of chuck keys, and this is the only one that would fit this, because these teeth are longer than normal, and all the other ones that fit here and were wide enough, the teeth just didn't grip very well. You could use them, but they didn't grip well enough, and it would just strip both probably over time. But there you go. Moxie. All right, so that's it for this 75 or so year old Van Dorn drill. I mean, this is a great drill. It's really powerful. It doesn't move very quick, but the speed did get better. Once I greased it and cleaned the motor out, it did actually speed up. But it's interesting how high torque they are and low speed. So I don't know if it'll ever really see much use again. Who knows? But for now, it's gonna go on my display wall up there with some of the others that I've done. Unless, of course, I find someone that really wants it, and then I'll just donate it out. But for now, that's going to be its new home. So I hope you enjoyed this content. It was fun for me to do. And I found this at a flea market. I forget, it was like $5 or something. So well worth it. It didn't cost me much. The power cord actually ended up costing me more than the drill itself. And a little polish, little manpower, a couple little wire connectors, and it was done. So you can do this. It's not that hard. All you have to do is go out and get busy.